Hello, everyone. I'm Becca, as a lot of you guys know from Be About It or Beck About It, Akashic Reading. Most of you guys do that follow me on my channel do know that I am an Akashic reader. And I wanted to come on today and post a video with one of the most brilliant, smart, solid. No, I'm serious, Angele. Like, this woman is and she has such a beautiful heart, a beautiful soul, and I love her very much. And so I wanted to kind of introduce my followers to Angele, and her and I maybe have a little conversation that hopefully will be enlightening to you guys, because Angele's really good at breaking things down just very simply and talking about very complex subjects in what I think is a very logical, easy to digest, great way. So she brought up the idea of what is a human being and what is reality. Let's just kind of start there. And I thought it was a great subject to start. So I'm going to introduce Angele, my beautiful, wonderful soul friend, and I think soul family. Um, Anything else, my dear, that you kind of wanted to share before we kind of get into what we're going to talk about?
Well, I could give a 2-minute
Yeah.
life path, how we all have a path and there's so many infinite paths and to discover who you truly are and natural human being. So I went to medical school, graduated in 1990, retired after 5 years of practice. So I think that's relevant. I mean, that started something saying, okay, this isn't a good way to help people with their health in a full and holistic way. So then I got on a path of exploration. I've probably done 150 personal sessions myself. It became a hobby to look at alternative practitioners. It started as like looking for the magic. I want the magic, and a little bit not quite clear in what I was, but at the same time, I think curiosity and willingness are such key elements. And I'm very tender with myself, have great compassion for, you come through your path as you come through it. And I was even came through a path that allopathic medicine did lock me up in the psychiatry system. So I just say that's all that needs to be said about that. I mean, that just kind of
Having
really solidified some knowledge actually to see, wow, this, and I guess I think my sole purpose, well, I should say my personal mission statement I want to share is to enable and empower optimal human health, not even knowing what optimal human health is, because the illusion of knowledge I am really concerned about. And I think my sole purpose is really at a system level and at a world level. So trying to get, into that, there's not even a stage or container for that yet. But I think Becca and I both feel that we want to be a part of creating that. Like, so it starts with a conversation. I really deeply and sincerely wish to be at tables with multidisciplinary people talking about how to allow for optimal human health for everyone. And this is big. It's big, yet it's natural. And I think there's, so that's sort of the journey. I have 2 websites, 21 Facebook pages. I mean, I've been exploring, and with that, I think it's just helped me to realize, just have some conversations. It doesn't have to be that complicated, but if anyone's interested in my path, maybe at the bottom of this, I'll link my 2 websites. One of them is actually pretty hard to navigate, but it's called disabledangel.ca. Yet I kind of like that it's difficult to navigate. But anyways, if someone's working with me personally, I'll often prescribe, oh, here's a story that might be interesting too. Because when you're really looking at everything, it's a lot. And I know that, and then I have a more, trying to be a little more approachable, is a website called bovera.ca. And I actually just posted, my most recent article is called The Police State ... of Mind. And in that, there's even a 90-minute conversation I had on Sunday, just 2 days ago, with a woman named Ida. So I had about 8 articles ready to go. And I'm like, okay, why is it plugged? But anyways, one of them got released with a secret one. It linked in there too. Only my collaborators are going to get the password for that one. And that one's about an authenticity scale, kind of working on the power versus force David Hawkins consciousness scale. So I worked with that for a decade and came up with some additions to what he had in his book. So anyway, but at the same time, it can get tricky to have these conversations. So anyway, I'll add that to give a little bit of background to how did Angele get to this moment.
I want to say, for anyone that does want to look at your blog, I love Disabled Angel, and here's how I utilize it. I don't know if other people may, but I like, if I'm dealing with something, I kind of think of a couple keywords and then I'll try and search your
Same, right?
articles to see if there's some keywords of things that might, because I honestly use it kind
Oh.
of intuitively a little bit because I
Well,
love,
that's what it's designed for, actually. I
yeah,
could give out one there's a list stories. If you click on list stories, it'll give you and then put list stories again. Then you
oh,
get a page with the titles and you'll intuitively pick the one right for you. So anyways, I have little tricks,
I love your titles too. You include these great little gifs and photos that are really deep. Like I love, no, I'm serious. That's
Well, you know
why
what it is? That's multidimensional writing. That is multidimensional writing. I didn't know what it was. It happened, and I'm like, what kind of weird style is this? But anyway, I've come to understand that's what it is, and it's energy encoded. So I do
absolutely.
pour my life, my heart and soul into everything I've ever written.
And one of my favorite things about you is how open and authentic and vulnerable you are. Like there's almost nothing about your life that's off limits. So if
You're
anybody's
right. It's
struggling
pretty
with,
edgy sometimes.
it is, but if somebody is struggling with something that seems to be kind of
Yeah,
a private matter, chances
yeah.
are you've dealt with it publicly on your blog. So
Well,
I,
I know the disabled angel is, and actually every single time I published was really challenging for me
yeah, I bet
because yeah, it's just, but
it's,
at some point, why write anything if it's easy and goes along with the social norms? So, I mean, I challenge every norm that exists
I love
in
that
my
about
own way, in my own way.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, we don't, like I said, we don't have like a really firm, solid, we're going to just kind of riff and let this flow and see what
yeah.
happens. And hopefully this is nourishing and edifying to those of you who are listening. But I guess we'll just start with the first question, which is what is a human being? Right?
And fully and truly, what is a
Yeah,
human being? Fully and truly.
fully and truly.
Are
Absolutely.
you working your life with the illusion of knowledge, or are you getting curious and willing to consider how amazing this technology is right here?
Absolutely. I love that you said it as technology because
It
when I was
is.
thinking about preparing for this video, I thought, what is a human being? And so I tried to, I'm wordy, but I tried to, as best as I could, condense it down into a couple of sentences. And so, I'm going to kind of like, I'll stop after I kind of get to a spot and let you go. I have
You
like a couple
bet.
of thoughts, but yeah. So from my frame of reference, and most of you guys listening probably know that I've spent many years, well, a good solid 4 years, reading the Akashic, probably 2.5 full time. That's all I do. But
Mhm.
now, but there's a lot to say in the records about the soul and the anatomy of a soul and what a human being is and all these kind of things, but putting it all together from my perspective and frame of reference, a human being is just not just, it is an electromagnetic biochemical suit that has subtle energies intimately entwined and interconnected circulating within it. Those energies work in such a way that what happens to the physical body in the material world also happens to the consciousness bodies existing in other dimensions, other timelines, different densities, and vice versa. So our point of consciousness here is affecting, multidimensional realities from the way I see it. There is literally no way to separate the internal circuitry of biological energies that run through our central nervous system via our brain waves and thought patterns, and the spiritual energies running through our emotions and belief patterning in an organic human body with a soul inside of it. So, a human being to me, all that said, is a fleshly body that is the spiritual home in this earth reality. That's how I would kind of describe a human being. That's very limited, but yeah.
Right, I love that. I knew, oh my gosh, I loved hearing your definition of it. Because as much as I ask the question, I don't often even try to answer it because I'm just, but at the same time, I will add some after what you said, but just, when you think of the geopolitical state of our world right now, like talk about distraction away from what's fundamentally so important. If we don't even know what a human being is, how are we, how on earth did we even get to be so confused as we are right now? Because basically our unsustainable system of systems do not address what a human being is. They don't yet. I always like to add the yet, but
Yeah.
I loved, and I was just, the first thought that came to me after hearing your beautiful, beautiful description of what is a human being is, I don't even know if I want to add this, but I mean the sense that there's a portion of a more fullness of us that animates this body. I've got questions like, I might have another aspect that's animating this body, and is it animating other bodies? That's a question that
Yes.
is out there. Is there maybe 20,000 other bodies being animated by this oversoul, for lack of a better word? So there's a lot of, that's kind of relevant to me. But at the same time, I think that the way we've set up our education systems in our society is just not even allowing for these kinds of discussions. And maybe we're not there yet, but I mean, I I get kind of physical sometimes too. Are we contaminating our water, our air, our bodies, our soil,
Oh, I have
our
like
mindset? So like,
yeah,
if that's
all kinds of feelings on all that
so,
too.
when we say what is a human being, that's why I want to ask that question, because
Yeah.
I got it. I just want to share one little anecdote. When I started practice, first year of practice, I was pretty believing in myself, thinking, well, I'm a doctor, I'm going to help people. And honestly, it didn't take long to go, oh my God, like what? The way medical research machine works. Like, I was sort of thinking, wow, I don't really have very much good data here to help people, because they're so focused on all these, like when you think of these minute little hypertension, well, I want to know fundamentally what is the cause. And I think I've come to know that there's probably a spiritual electromagnetic reasoning behind every single physical ailment. The body is just giving you a signal. Hey, we're not in tune, we're not in harmony, we're not in equilibrium. So you get these physical diagnoses, I guess, as little wake-up calls to say, hey, you got to change something, or you're going to continue down this path of degeneration, which is almost a mindset to say, oh, we get old, we get broken down, we get sick, we get disabled. That's just a belief system, and I actually don't believe that anymore. You thing, here we come.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, I think it poses a really big problem for many of the human beings living on our planet if they don't know that most of what they actually are exists outside of their awareness. I mean, and that's
Right.
the truth, right? So if
Yeah.
you believe that what you are is limited to the third dimensional reality, and you
And
consider
the 5 physical senses.
that's what I'm saying. That's all you have
Yeah.
access to is five
Yeah.
senses. You don't have access to anything else. So the reality that you're experiencing isn't real at all. It's not true
Mhm.
reality, in my opinion, because um, while it might be true for the limited consciousness existing within that avatar, that's not the true reality, and it's not accurate. So you're living in a false reality.
Yeah.
And, so what is reality?
By
Is
your own choice, in
by
a
your
way, but it
right.
may
So
be a subconscious choice. And my biggest thought is, I want to bring awareness to the conscious choice available for
which
every single human being right now.
this, right? So like we're planting these concepts in the collective, and in my
Yeah,
opinion, anyone can access these should you choose to.
absolutely. Just
So
change the radio station a little bit.
absolutely. So let's talk about that, because like one of the things that I've studied, and you've probably studied a lot, is DNA. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I've studied the most in the records, to be quite honest with you, is
Ooh,
so
yes.
most of the people in this world would probably agree that our DNA expresses who we are and what we look like here. And so, from my perspective, and I would agree with that, I think the problem is that most humans, again, have no comprehension of what DNA truly is, what it actually looks
Yes,
like.
agreed.
So, the portion, this is what I've seen in the records. Now, here's where we get, we're going to go sideways. We're going to get off the
No,
path.
I am just anticipating this so much.
Okay. So, the portion of DNA that is actually matter expressed in our material world, from what I've seen in the records, is about 20%.
Beautiful.
So
Nice.
it's very, very small in the actual reality that most people are accessing. So they're
Right.
accessing about 20% of what they actually are as a DNA
Wow.
being, because in the records, DNA is over 80% memory. It's memory. So it's photonic light. So our reality is photonic light information. So if you want to be hooked into actual true reality, there is a language, right? Sacred geometry, light, sound, all these things that we can, it's a set of rules of which that control how photonic light beings incarnate and express and exchange information within this reality. And it's also how we move to our next one when that time comes. So the
Mm.
DNA is like the encoding, and the light body is the cipher that unpacks the experience.
Right.
So as we and I believe in reincarnation, but as we reincarnate and live here many times over, we store memories and DNA lineages. That's how we get to a fundamental understanding that we are eternal beings. So we are immortal, and this is how we expand and grow and become greater beings of light. So DNA is light in another form. And the interesting thing that I've seen that's so important is there are so many people living in this third dimensional reality of matter that's like, what is the most valuable currency? Well, most people would say it's gold or wealth or, multidimensional quantum beings, the currency of this entire reality is DNA. So the quality of your DNA,
right,
how valuable of a being you are to other beings out there. I mean, that makes it very interesting as far as from what I've seen in the Akashic records. If you're choosing to, inhabit this beautiful technology, there's some models are better than others. I mean, it sucks to admit that. And I don't want to make people believe that, you're a victim, because you're not. You have access to as much of that memory and DNA access as you want. And we'll talk about how you, upgrade DNA, but you are not limited by anything but your own thought about what you are, as this.
Well, what is possible for a human being is a beautiful question. And that's what you're alluding to there.
Right?
And DNA is multidimensional.
Quantum.
So here we have everybody with an eye on the microscope. People, take your eye off the microscope. Have your own experience. Get curious. Become willing. It's actually it's that simple. And then you follow the breadcrumb trail of where your intuition leads you next. It's overwhelming to think too far ahead. You can only look at your next best step. Like to me, that's a very simple formula. And I kind of came to that somewhat through experience. But Bentinho Massaro is a teacher that I followed his material, and he sometimes has really lengthy videos, but every now and then I watch one and I've gotten some really good pearls. But Follow the Breadcrumb Trail comes via him. I love it. It's just simple. It's actually, to be a natural human being is simple. However, if you're completely kind of entrained to this radio station that I honestly believe is a little bit more consciously made available to the masses more than it kind of breaks my heart to think that there might be that conscious desire to keep people entrained. But either way, you ultimately do have the choice to say, wait a minute, I'm going to get curious and see what else is available, what other radio stations are available. For me, it kind of happened spontaneously, but it was in the background of really, truly desiring to be understanding an exemplar like Jesus Christ. That was how it started for me in about 2008. I just got this idea that it's possible I can become so much more than what I am now. But of course, it was a little bit of a funny path. But it really was just out of sincere curiosity and desire and intention. And that's how it starts.
I think that that's all that matters, to be honest.
That's all that matters.
I mean, that really is as simple as it is. I think that, while I'm explaining all these really, crazy concepts in the Akashic, like you said, it is actually very simple. You boil it down to natural light is a link to genetic expression. I mean, if we're made of light, that's radiant energy frequency. I mean, basically so I don't know, I don't say this a lot, but my background isn't, I have a lot of electrical engineering, software engineering.
And I love that. I think that's part of the magic of Becca Haynes.
That's right. And then you've got that biology and the medical, human, physical, and so I think we work very well together as far as that goes. And so it's like, if we are light beings and we live in a photonic reality and DNA is 80%, memory encoded in light, then natural light is a link to genetic expression. So I look at things in terms of like IT as well, right? So the universe transfers packets of intelligent energy into consciousness through natural light. That's how we intake this universal transfer of energy, which is information. So this light is gathered by your DNA. And this light is a pattern of electromagnetic energy created by a combination of multiple bands of frequency within a dimension of time. So it is like, densities and dimensions and all that kind of stuff does apply, and all these things, this applies to animals and plants, all biological forms in nature. Our bodies contain light activated molecules, protein
Right.
particles made by protein enzymes that are linked to controlling our genetic expression. So, and it sounds simple, but basically what I'm saying is the sun can naturally activate the potential of our genes recorded in our DNA that control the molecular information transfer
To
processes.
naturally engage our fullest human potential.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Like DNA, would you say the Akashic records exist in the DNA? Because that's sort of a working theory I'm kind of playing with.
The Akashic is DNA. DNA
Okay.
is Akashic,
Yeah,
which,
thank you.
which is consciousness,
That's
like
kind of how I'm feeling too.
intelligent energy, right?
So
That's
they
how
all medical kind of dogma would say that there's this junk DNA. Well, it's probably
it's
not
not
junk
junk.
and it's
Some of us have
everything.
more of it activated than others.
Yes, that's the only difference. So if you do see someone that you don't understand, I mean, I don't know who will be watching this video, but just to be aware,
Yeah.
hey, maybe they just have a little higher activation and they might look really strange to you, or maybe their choices don't make any sense to you, but you could ask them. A lot of the people like this are very open to questions, and we're a little bit shy right now because, there's that old witch burned at the stake syndrome where there's in prior lifetimes, this kind of choosing to be our fuller potential gets
Guess
kind of
what? If it's
attacked.
coded in your memory, which is your DNA, there's a
Yeah.
reason you feel that way, because
Yes.
so that's the amnesia, right? That's the
Yeah.
limited awareness that we have access to. So just because you don't remember Atlantis doesn't mean you weren't there, right?
Right.
So
Right.
those, if you want to remember that, you can. It is your divine birthright as an eternal being. Activate your DNA. And so when I say, I know a lot of people talk about, okay, so your body and you're a human being. So for me, like your body, a human being, breaking it down even more, your human body is a holographic light projector. Your
I
body
love that.
your
Yes.
body and brain filter light waves for your consciousness, and in return, you put out biological light emissions, aka your aura. This is why people can read other people's
Yes.
aura,
Right.
they can access that field. And so basically, what I'm saying is everything that you're taking into your holographic light projector is directly affecting the quality of your filter
Right.
or lack thereof,
Yes.
right? So,
Well, I think that was like, I've only made one video, and that was a big part of it, to just recognize that we are basically projecting our reality. So if you're not happy with it, you kind of have to go within. I mean, I know that sounds so cliche, but there is something inside you that's, and there's a multiple of people, billions of people, all co-creating together. Kind of a strange situation right now, but the truth is, any mess we've ever made, we can fix it. There's a solution to every problem.
yes.
I do feel I know that. I'll
Now
say that boldly.
there's, and I don't want to be the like rain on the parade or
Okay,
everything.
rain on my parade. Go ahead.
There is, from what I can see and what I do truly believe, and anyone can correct me if they really believe I'm wrong, but I do feel like we are as human beings under attack. I mean, I do
Yes.
feel
No, I
that.
believe that too.
Okay, so as an incarnated earthling human being, there is a constant bombardment of like these AI frequencies, mind control, implants, electromagnetic warfare. Basically, they overload our brain and body with toxic environments. And that completely serves their agenda to, intentionally limit the amount of consciousness that we can house within this body because now your
Yes.
filter is dirty.
That's not rain on my parade. I actually agree completely with that. But
Okay.
I guess at the same time, I would love to think that some curious soul will really get an idea of what's possible just from our little
Yes, that's
conversation.
what I mean. So,
I have a question for you.
yeah. Okay.
Like, I guess what I find so fascinating, like I say, my hobby of talking with alternative practitioners, like one, I've somehow decided in the last month or two that one of the biggest mistakes I made in this lifetime, quote mistakes, but I mean, it's just my own little contemplation,
Perfect.
was
But yes,
assuming we were all the same. And I know that, like, through your work, I'd love to hear your collected experience from your actual readings of many, many different fields and souls. How the same are we? Or, maybe speak to that a little bit.
Okay. Um, I think at our core, we're all the same, right? I mean, ultimately, we are an aspect of source, we're an emanation of source, and I believe that we are a holographic projection of the whole. So we have access to the fullness of everything. And at our core, we are all, intelligent energy consciousness. But
Mhm.
there, I will say this. It's kind of like your body is your car. Not everybody has
Ah,
the same type of model.
right.
Okay, some of us have made choices where we've bankrupted ourselves a little bit, and so we don't have access to the top of the line model because we've made choices that's not to say you can't reverse them.
Interesting.
That's not to say you
Oh.
cannot reverse them because we are always at choice, but
And then you can upgrade your vehicle.
at any time
Yeah,
and
right.
quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, right.
But the universe, intelligent, conscious energy is so loving. This is the
It
way
really is. When you experience it, it's
it's so
just
loving.
beyond beautiful.
It wants us to have whatever it is that we want.
Totally.
So whether we know that we're wanting this thing, I believe, even if you're choosing unconsciously or subconsciously, that you are still choosing because the outside matches the inside. You will
Right.
never be given something that you don't fully believe you're, worthy of because the inside doesn't match the outside.
Mhm.
You will never incarnate into a circumstance, for example, that doesn't match you because it wouldn't be in alignment. It's, your soul path is choosing which frequency our frequency determines our density. So at each density, our consciousness is subject to different laws that govern the structure of our movement throughout that time and space and in that location. So if you think of it like our frequency determines our density, and that density is determining what experiences our consciousness is ready to
Right.
have, what lessons we're prepared to
Right.
learn, what knowledge we're able to be responsible for, what wisdom we're accountable for. So not everybody has the same access. I'm sorry, everybody has the same access. Not everybody has chosen to bring their divinity down within their humanity.
Mm.
So there's different levels. I mean, and I don't like that because it's hierarchy and I don't love hierarchy and all that kind of
It
stuff.
isn't really hierarchy. It actually is just sort of objective in a quantum physics sort of way.
Yes.
And I love quantum physics. Really is the only science I see some value in. And
Yes.
I got really angry when I first started exploring this because some discoveries were made in the 1940s that were never incorporated into our systems. So, some things I discovered about allopathic psychiatry, the answers were known in the 70s. However, I didn't learn them in medical school. So, I mean, we do have a huge, strange way of sharing knowledge or who gets to decide what's widely dispersed. And it does get a little inconvenient to take down every system, but now here we are. I don't think we have a choice. We can recreate every single system and make them better, and it will serve everyone.
Absolutely. And that's a beautiful segue into like what is reality, I think, right?
Yeah,
So I mean,
right.
if we, going back to kind of what we started in the beginning, if most humans, and I will say it's to me, it's kind of like a bell curve. 80,
Yep. I love the bell curve.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty accurate and you
It's
can
not hierarchical, it's just any moment of time, most
Yep.
attributes that are human are going to have a bell curve, and there's going to be someone at the top of that curve, and there's going to be someone at the bottom of that curve, and everyone's free to change.
And you got your, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I liken humanity to that bell curve, then 80% of us are really, in this, I will say, I'm going to call it an independent reality bubble. Okay. So if
Okay, I like that.
most humans live in this independent reality bubble of consciousness,
Mhm.
and that's not the same reality that I live in. I
Mm,
don't live in that reality.
right.
So here's why, because the way that I see it, and of course, I am perfectly open for debate. I don't want to come.
Discussion,
Right, this
discussion.
is discussion.
Like
This
true respectful discussion. It's worth discussing, people. Let's
absolutely
do it. We
like
can do
it's
it. You can
wrong.
trust us. We're
Yes,
very gentle and we love to discuss.
absolutely. So my current paradigm, subject to change in the next 25 seconds,
Yeah.
is, with all the mental data and personal content that is being collected from the masses, any and all means to grow the online data collection industries, including the gathering of DNA samples, is full steam ahead right now. Okay. So I feel like these industries and technologies, they're being funded by unlimited deep pockets. Let's be really honest. And the end game is, to me, building clusters of artificial neural networks.
Yeah,
So
they
what,
want to control your reality. I believe that.
so
Yeah.
it's a frequency fence of
Are
artificial.
you wanting to give away the freedom of your own choice? I mean, you always have the freedom of choice, but
Always
when
do.
you're entrained really strongly and in everything is sort of working against you, it's a little more challenging. But
Right.
anyway, a tipping point percentage of us, I think, can really flip this, and I think that's happening.
So, I mean, that brings me to like, why would they be wanting to do this, right? So if they're
Mhm.
constantly collecting our data and surveying us, here's why I think that's happening. Because they begin to formulate the schematic of the majority of mass consciousness perception on a variety of topics, systems that you're talking about, right? And then they use the media to weaponize the narratives.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're seeking to get people to tune into certain reality bubbles that they set up as a social experiment and then lead them into a consciousness trap. And
Yes,
it's a,
I love that.
it's a
They
consciousness
make their channel of frequency so strong that they
like
trap you. Yeah.
science, medicine, right? Like we've all experienced them. And if you go outside of that box and you're no longer in the 80%, you're
Yeah.
no longer safe, right? And we as humans are
They
pack
want us to perceive that we are no longer safe, although
correct. They
we
want
all
us
of a
to be
sudden we realize actually we are safe and we're going to have to model this
thank
new
you.
way of being, a state of being. And it feels like a challenge at times, but I actually love the little saying, I'll figure it out. I know that I can, and it will be easy. Yet it may take great courage, and it's taking less and less courage as you get into this. Like it's a choice that I have made. I think you've made. We're
I
going to
think
do
it's
this.
pretty easy when the narrative is the illusion generated for its outer appearance. And normally what it is, it's exactly the opposite of whatever
That's right. It
it
tends to be
is.
180 degrees opposite to natural.
So thus it's
Yeah.
not really that difficult to figure out, right? But I mean, if if you're using, and let's just say, because I think this is true, if we're using quantum supercomputers right now, think about that. If you really only have to manage one narrative for 80% of the population, guess what? I want to be a wild card and I want to fuck you up. I don't
Yep.
ever want you to be able to anticipate what I think, what I want, what I expect, what I'm going to manifest, what I'm going to do. I want to be a complete and total wild card, and I don't want you to be able to predict my movements.
Mhm.
So there are moments in my life when I have chosen to purposefully be, what? I'm going crazy left or, and that's why I think a lot of people look at me and go, wow, what
That
happened?
surprises me. That's how they'll
Because,
react.
because now they, whoever they are, right?
Yeah.
I think that they're
The
higher,
powers that were, I call them.
the powers that were, absolutely. um, you know, they don't want to have to utilize their energy in such a way to figure out, stop up, plug the hole, right? So if you're easily controlled and you're in that 80%, they don't have to spend a lot of energy manipulating and counteracting and creating new narratives. And I think that's the beauty of the time that we're in right now for me personally.
Mhm.
I feel like humans have access to more of their sovereignty and free will than ever before,
Mhm.
even though it doesn't look that way.
Well, that's right. They'll tell you mandate this and that, but like really, that's doesn't mean anything. You do what you want to do.
Trigger anybody right now, but I'm going to put a trigger warning on this. I I haven't worn a mask in months and I won't. I refuse to.
No, I haven't worn a mask at all. So
Okay.
yeah.
And I'm not going to be muzzled. I'm going to speak my piece. And for me, that's an energetic expression
Mhm.
of what the control that they're trying to do.
That brings a thought to me.
Nobody has done anything to me. Nobody said anything
No,
nasty. I've never gotten in
no.
trouble. I've never been disrespected. Nobody's ever been rude to me. I've never had to be rude back. This supposed control and um, I don't know, authority that they have is very much an illusion.
Self-proclaimed authority, yeah.
Very much an
But I
illusion.
wanted to make a point based on what you just said is
Okay.
symbology. Like symbology in the world is actually a little more important than I was educated to believe, you know. So the idea of a mask, it's a very powerful symbol. And I as a physician, former physician, viral theory could even be questioned. You know, science doesn't have a system for questioning its own assumptions, despite that science in its purest form really is all about that. Yet it is not existing in its purest form. I have to say, I don't believe in science right now. I would say science is like religion for me. I mean,
Yeah,
it's dogmatic, it's
it's not.
authoritative. That is not pure science. But
No.
do we even need pure science? I'd say when everything I know about it, what is a human being and what is reality, we actually don't need it. You may want to play with it. It could be fun. It's a tool. It's kind of like a hammer. Like if you want to build a house and you want to do it by hand, you might use a hammer.
Yeah.
But you could also use that hammer to kill someone. But the hammer was actually designed, you know, to maybe help us to construct things. So science, similarly, like it's a tool. It could be used to kill someone, or it could be used to sort of look for some, you know.
And
But I think
okay,
reality is more malleable than we were trained to
yes.
believe. So that's this. What is reality? If you really want to dig into that, it could take a couple of years.
Well,
But so
what's
we've
beautiful what you're
talked
saying
about it.
about the tool and how you use it is, I want to bring that back to like there are people who feel like they have done the right thing and protected us by withholding certain information. These
Mhm.
that's a lot of what happened with like the secret societies and the Holy Roman
Right.
Empire. It's like, some of these concepts that they felt were too.
Right. That
Yeah,
became a style hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So I
yeah,
think that's the challenge for people if you are kind of listen. I mean, I stopped listening to mainstream media in 2009, a very conscious choice. I
yeah.
was questioned quite a bit the first couple of years, and I'm like, if something needs to catch my ear, it will. But oh
Yeah.
gosh, did I forget what I was about to say? I might have.
Very good. You did.
We'll get there. It'll come back if it needs to.
I mean, I think that we have pretty much
Yeah, we really
job of like
covered.
encapsulating it pretty well, right? I mean,
What's a human being? What's reality?
yeah,
Let's talk, folks. Let's talk. But at the same time, let's be natural.
yes,
Natural.
be natural. And so, I mean, so we just talked about the fact that we're all experiencing different realities to some extent. So don't get upset when someone has a differing viewpoint or opinion, right? Let's just be able to discuss it. There is clearly a filter or a reason or experience
Yeah.
or a knowledge or wisdom that you have heard that leads you to believe the way that you believe. So let's just learn to discuss it with love and compassion and understanding rather than what I see right now is like a lot of separation. And, I know that on this video, I even said that not all of us are in the same model of car. That doesn't make anyone better or worse or less
That's
than.
true. I agree.
I don't want it. Every single soul on this planet is unique. Nobody's special, but everyone's unique. And
Can
that
I
makes
just add, like the idea of, I think a lot of people act through unresolved trauma based
yeah,
on the fact that none of our unsustainable system of systems hasn't addressed what is a human being and what is reality. So unresolved trauma, I think, is the reason for all this separation and all of that. So that's where I think this is just such a valuable conversation because we can make it available to everyone to recognize how important unresolved trauma is. And if you're living your life that way, it's pretty, can be quite dramatic and you can even get addicted to drama. But, you know, there can be a lot of, some people might think it's almost boring not to have a life full of drama, but I think it'll just create new explorations. You'll actually have the luxury to truly pursue soul's passions that
yes.
we all have. And then we all act naturally and follow our passion, it will all get done. And if there's a job that nobody wants to do, well, we're going to use our human ingenuity and figure out a way around it, either get tech to do it for us or do without it, or take turns doing the really gross jobs that nobody wants to do. You know, anything, there's so many solutions. There's
Yeah.
infinite solutions to any problem.
There
I
is,
think.
there is. They're only limited to the capacity that we can give ourselves freedom and permission to even think of them, really.
Right, right.
So I
Yeah,
love
that
the
we
statement.
covered some good stuff here today.
I'm gonna post this on my channel. Um, I'm gonna put, in the comment section if you want to visit both of Angele's blogs.
Yeah, I'll add them in.
I don't. Are you booking sessions right now? Or are you kind of still figuring
Well, you
out?
know what? I am open to have
Okay.
discussions, and yeah, it's not
Well, that's great
necessarily.
as well. She
Yeah,
has this really beautiful past life kind of clearing process that
yeah, a very tech like specific technique little tool that works with past life clearing. I got good at it because this type of soul that I came in as needed it, and I did it for myself many times too, like 150 times. So anyway, I got good at it, and I've been sharing it with people, and I'm getting really good reviews.
we
Yeah,
heal ourselves so that we can help heal the collective. So that's
right.
beautiful. So I'll post all of your links in the comment section as well. So anyone that wants to follow Angele or keep up with her and the cool stuff she's doing, feel free to do that. I'll post my stuff below as well if anybody wants to. I am booking sessions right
I
now.
highly recommend. I've done 2 sessions with Becca, and oh, phenomenal, phenomenal. I mean, I very rarely go back to sessions, but it was just such cool data that I do go back to the ones I have to put them in a document so I can find them really easily now. But I really appreciated your work, and I love getting to know you. I treasure you as a friend and a collaborator.
I honor you as a beautiful soul too. Like I said, Angele's brilliant. She's got a wealth of knowledge behind her, and it's just such a beautiful heart and authentic, loving, wonderful soul. So check her
Thank
out. Thank
you.
you guys all for being here. Thank you for being here. Beautiful.
Yeah, I could see us doing this again. I'd love to.
Okay, that's the next thing. Anyone want to comment in the questions? What's the next subject you guys would like to discuss?
Yeah, like honestly, if we get good feedback, we're coming on again to share with you all.
Maybe we even need a second session on human being and reality. What do you guys think? Did
Yeah,
we
specific questions that came from this conversation.
even like
Sometimes you need a little seed to get the conversation started, and we will go there so easily.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you, Becca. Mwah!
I love you.
I love you too.
Bye.
Bye.